Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about how weird it is that King Sphinx has so much merchandise. Yeah, there's even a new figure coming out for him from Super 7 Ultimates, which are delayed quite a bit. They were supposed to come out like a month or two ago, and I'm still waiting on my pre-order. But anyway, yeah. Why did this extremely minor character who wasn't particularly memorable or likable, really. Why is he in, like, everything? Especially the early stuff, but the interesting thing is that he's still getting merchandise. Because, like, some of this stuff, like, okay, yeah, here it is. Here he is on the cover of one of, like, the very first Mighty Morphin books. He's in all of these Mighty Morphin board books. Let's see. There he is. Let's see. And, there he is. And he's just depicted as just another one of Rita's henchmen. Let's see. And, doesn't usually take too long to find him in these. Oh, I guess... Okay, there he is. Oh, he waited until the last page. How considerate. He's in this, guidebook thing. Villains. And then, right there, we see the only two Monsters of the Day characters. Pudgy Pig. Okay, that makes sense. Pudgy Pig was, like, one of the very first monsters in the show. Food Fight, by order of air date, was the second episode, and he's a very popular character. King Sphinx, though, he's not a particularly popular character. So anyway, here's his entry. What's it say about him? Blah, 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 Rita and her band of sicko space aliens, repulsive King Sphinx, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, not really anything too interesting about him there. He's got a little entry in this Zords versus the Monster Squad book. Here he is, the Monster Squad. All the other monsters are relatively notable compared to him. He had one single appearance in an episode that's not even very well remembered. Bones was in a really early episode. The Giant isn't really that memorable. I'd say he's probably even less memorable than King Sphinx is, but, like, I don't know, he's a bit more unique, I think. Then we got Gnarly Gnome there. He's got a pretty good episode. Nasty Knight, whose episode isn't very good in my opinion, but it was like an early episode, and it was an episode that was released on tape. A lot of people saw it. Pineoctopus, very popular. Not so the monster form, not so popular. He's more popular as his human form. Then we got Eye Guy there. He makes sense. He's a very popular monster. Very unique monster. Terror Toad, another popular monster. Got Pudgy Pig there. And then King Sphinx, whose power is, he can flap his wings and blow people through walls, I guess. So yeah, very strange that King Sphinx has so much merchandise. It's very bizarre to me. And I wondered for a long time, like when I was a little kid, I initially missed whatever episode King Sphinx was in. My major, first exposure to him was in Island of Illusion, actually.
I remember the time I fought King Sphinx. It was looking bad for a while, but I didn't give up.
And there was my major exposure to King Sphinx, was Jason being like, oh yeah, I remember this one time I fought this monster, and yeah, he was kind of tough, but then I beat him. So, yeah, it was always kind of mysterious to me. Like, I knew who he was. He has wings and this kind of lion face, so kind of like Goldar. And he has that whole Egyptian thing going on. Goldar had a vague Egyptian look to him, so I was kind of like, oh, so is this some kind of connection to Goldar? No, not at all. It's just some monster. No relation to Goldar. And, yeah. I guess he's cool looking. But it's still bizarre to me that even now he's still getting merchandise. This is the Imagine Next figure put out a few years ago. This is the Lightning Collection figure put out very recently, like only a year or two ago. And it's like a really high quality figure too, although they skimped on the paint in some areas, very obviously. So anyway, when I was younger, I had no idea who he was, but I figured he must have been important because he's got so much frickin' merchandise, and he's in all these books I had as a kid. And yeah, it just made me all the more curious. Who is this guy? And so eventually, I saw the Lost Episode special, which was an airing of the original pilot for Power Rangers, and then I finally learned why why there's so much merchandise of King Sphinx. Oh yeah, I think he's also in the video games, too. Anyway, in the Lost Episode special, it was the pilot, and the pilot used footage from the episode with him because, well, he was, I guess, the first monster that fights the Zord in the footage that they had, or whatever footage they had available. He happened to be the monster that fights with the Megazord, and also Goldar is there, and I guess they wanted to keep Goldar in the footage as well, because he's a main monster. So, what I'm assuming... Oh, and also, interesting note, in the pilot, King Sphinx isn't even called King Sphinx. He's called Fly Guy. Or Goldar is called Fly Guy, I'm not sure. The pilot's a little bit of a mess. So, yeah. So yeah, King Sphinx most likely got all this merchandise simply because he happened to be in the pilot, and I'm guessing the pilot was sent out to, like, merchandisers, and so they looked at that and they were like, oh, okay, so this Sphinx guy is one of the main villains. So that means we should probably be making merchandise of him, and, like, yeah. Obviously, he's a main character. He's one of Rita's minions. They had no idea that he was a one-off character. I think maybe it was a bit unusual to, like, American, like, sensibilities that there'd be a monster like this and he'd just be a one-off. I'm guessing, I don't know, when they saw the pilot, they were thinking Ninja Turtles. Like, this guy, he's the Rocksteady or Bebop of the group, right? There's Goldar and King Sphinx, and then there's Squat and Babu, and yeah, that's all the monsters, right? So yeah, let's make merchandise of King Sphinx. And okay, I get it. But then the really weird thing with King Sphinx is the fact that he kept getting merchandise. Particularly recently. Because like I said, there's the Imaginext figure a few years ago. There's the Lightning Collection figure. Now, the Imaginext figure is a bit weird because, like, why? This wasn't even, like, Bandai. This was a special thing by Fisher-Price. He came in a 2-pack with Scorpina, which is very strange. Why wouldn't he come with... Or why wouldn't Scorpina come with Goldar? I mean, I guess they had, like, space for an extra monster, so they're like, King Sphinx. So, yeah, and Goldar had a figure, like, on his own, or with Zed or something, but why did they pick King Sphinx? Out of all the monsters, he's such a weird one to pick, because, like I said, he's not well remembered. His episode wasn't that good. He doesn't have much of a personality. And he only had that one appearance, if you don't count Island of Illusion's little flashback. The Lightning Collection figure is also weird. He came out at the same time as Pumpkin Rapper. Now, Pumpkin Rapper makes sense. He's a popular monster. He's a really creative monster. He's a monster that a lot of people want a toy of, even the fans who don't usually collect monster figures. With King Sphinx, I have, like, seen some stuff from people who aren't even Power Ranger fans, but they like this Lightning Collection figure. They think that King Sphinx has a cool look, and yeah, he does have kind of a cool look. I think he looks cooler in the Japanese... I mean, the character is a cooler character. Over here, he's just, just a random monster. There's not really anything to him. Actually, I think his human version in Ranger is a bit more interesting. The other weird thing is in the Power Rangers Artist Tribute book. Now, this came out just a while ago, and there's a couple of pieces of art that, highlight King Sphinx. In fact, he even made the back cover. There he is, in full color, in the corner there. In this kind of Alex Ross style. Actually, who did this picture? It's really good. It reminds me of Alex Ross a lot. But yeah, so who else is in this picture? We got Rita, that makes sense. Looks like a Putty's head down there. There's Scorpina. There's Goldar, Pudgy Pig back there. Let's see, a Putty, Lokar, that makes sense. And then King Sphinx. Just, I don't know, it feels really out of place. Out of all the monsters they could have picked, it just seems very weird to pick him. Now in Zyuranger, he had a human form, which, let's see, even in Zyuranger, King Sphinx, Doris Sphinx, isn't that interesting of a character. I find his human counterpart to be far more interesting. And right here we have the Super 7 King Sphinx figure, with rainbowy wings, which I guess is actually accurate to the show, although, yeah, I don't think his wings were that bright. Two different heads for some reason. One's mouth is slightly more open than the other. Sure, why not? And I just remembered, as a kid, the other exposure I had to King Sphinx wasn't even in Power Rangers, it was actually in Beetleborgs. Yeah, King Sphinx was in Beetleborgs, at least his head was. Yeah, in Zoom Comics, the comic book store that the kids would hang out at, they had King Sphinx's head on display there. So apparently Power Rangers had the King Sphinx suit, but I guess it fell apart or something, and they decided to use the head for set dressing. That's how memorable they considered King Sphinx, is that they could use his head as set dressing in Beetleborgs. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I just wanted to go over how weird it is that King Sphinx has amassed so much merchandise, and his, amount of merchandise is still growing, despite most Power Ranger fans probably not even knowing who he is. Because, like I said, he's in one episode of Mighty Morphin, he's in a flashback in a later episode. Very weird. I'm hoping at least the toys in the future can, I don't know, do something kind of creative with him. This guy's wings are supposed to move when you move his arm. Oh, okay, there it goes. Anyway, this guy is from the Micro Machines line. This is a little figurine of King Sphinx. They made figurines of several Mighty Morphin characters. Here's the big Bandai vinyl figure. Big fella. Lightning Collection figure. Very highly detailed. Took some liberties with the head sculpt. Paint's a little weird in spots. I do like the articulation. They added articulation for his tail. That's cool. The Imaginext King Sphinx from Fisher-Price. And this is a part of the complicated Power Rangers board game. Oh, and Purple Rita, another weird thing that, unlike King Sphinx, I really don't know what in the world they were thinking with Purple Rita. Nothing on the back. Then there's all these little board books. These were just common things they put out back when Mighty Morphin was still brand new. The Tokuma Shoten book, Zords vs. the Monster Squad. One of my really, really old videos was going over all of these. I also did an old video going over the guidebook, which is full of a bunch of weird old stock art, that some of which I don't see anywhere else. And there's King Sphinx. You stupid dork who for some reason still gets merchandise. Oh, and I guess the Artist Tribute book from Boom Studios. Pretty cool book. I also did a video going over this. So yeah, there's King Sphinx, and some of the weirdness surrounding this dumb idiot. That's it for this one. See ya.